Imagine working 60 hours a week. You're standing in this loud, dusty factory, and every single morning you have to punch a heavy metal time clock just to prove you actually arrived.
Yeah, that sounds completely exhausting.
Right, but the thing is, 100 years ago, that wasn't some nightmare scenario. I mean, that was just Tuesday.
Exactly, it was just standard life.
So today, we are exploring how the world changes. And more importantly, we are unpacking the secret to talking about those massive life changes in English.
Which is a huge skill to have.
Totally. If you are listening to this right now, especially, our listeners across Latin America, you're probably preparing to step into a physical classroom. You want to feel confident.
You want your English to actually flow.
Yes, exactly. You want to be able to jump from the past to the present and into the future without freezing up. So our mission for this deep dive is to give you that exact ability.
And we are using the tools from Interchange, 5th edition, Level 2, Unit 9, which is called Only Time Will Tell.
I love that title. We're going to keep our pace clear and moderate, focusing on the real mechanics of fluency. So, okay, let's unpack this. We talk about change constantly, right?
Oh, all the time. It's a fundamental human behavior.
But to actually do it in a new language, we have to start with what is actually shifting in our society.
Well, yeah, because whenever you meet someone new or whenever you're sitting in a cafe trying to build a connection, the conversation almost always turns to how things used to be versus how they are now.
It's just how we relate to each other.
Right. But you cannot have that conversation if you don't have the specific nouns to describe those eras.
Makes sense.
So the source material highlights 3 major areas of human life that are constantly evolving. We're looking at work, transportation, and shopping.
And the facts in this material really paint a picture. Like we just mentioned the 19th century work week, over 60 hours.
Using time clocks.
Yeah, time clocks and the assembly line, where people just stood doing the exact same motion all day long. It feels so heavy and industrial.
It really does. But then the vocabulary shifts drastically when we talk about the present.
Oh, completely. Today, the focus is on a 40-hour work week, having multiple workplaces and, frequent career changes.
Notice the shift there from physical machines to abstract concepts. Like we moved from assembly lines to flexibility.
That's a really good point. And when the material projects into the future, it introduces terms like intelligent robots and a 2-hour workday.
Which is wild to think about.
I mean, a 2-hour workday. Sign me up immediately.
Right.
But realistically, when I see a phrase like intelligent robots, I immediately think about how to use that in a real conversation because it's a controversial topic.
Oh, for sure. People worry about robots taking their jobs.
Exactly. Having that specific vocabulary packed in your mind allows you to actually participate in those deeper, more advanced debates in your classroom.
And the same thing applies to transportation. The material contrasts the massive, coal-powered steam trains and ocean liners of the past with today's model.
Which is all about shared cars.
Yeah, shared cars. You don't even own a vehicle anymore. You just unlock one with your phone for an hour.
And then for the future, we get words like driverless cars, non-polluting vehicles, and teleportation.
Moving instantly from one place to another.
But I have to ask, isn't some of this just like science fiction? Why is a language learner studying the word teleportation?
Well, because language learning isn't just about stating boring facts. I mean, it is about imagination and expressing opinions.
Oh, I see.
If your teacher asks you what transportation will look like in 50 years, and you say teleportation, you've instantly sparked a fun, engaging conversation. You need words that provoke a reaction.
That makes a lot of sense. You want to be interesting to talk to.
Huh.
Which brings us to the third category, which is shopping.
This one feels the most relatable, honestly.
It really does, because the evolution is so clear. In the old days, people went to a butcher for meat, a separate market for fish, another for vegetables.
Right. And then we transitioned to these massive superstores.
Yeah, where you buy clothes, food, and medicine, all in one giant building.
But the future prediction is that the physical superstore will disappear completely. People will simply order everything online from their homes.
I mean, we are practically living in that future right now.
Totally.
But having all these words, teleportation, time clocks, superstores, it's really just the first step. I like to compare it to packing your suitcase before a trip.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, if you don't have the right words packed, you can't travel through the past, present, and future. But you can't just throw these words at someone and expect them to understand what era you're talking about. You need an engine to drive them.
You do. Think of time contrasts like shifting gears in a manual car.
Right.
If you don't use the right grammatical phrases, you're just slamming the transmission,
Yeah.
and the listener gets whiplash trying to figure out if you mean 1920 or 2024.
I love that metaphor. Let's talk about how to actually shift those gears. Starting with reverse, we need to talk about the past.
Okay.
The material introduces phrases like, about 100 years ago, but the really heavy lifter here seems to be the phrase used to.
Used to is a fascinating psychological tool in English.
How so?
Well, when you say, as a child, I used to ride my bike, or people used to shop at small markets, you're building a definitive wall between the past and the present.
You're separating them.
Exactly. You are telling the listener, this action is completely over, things are different now.
Wait, let me test this. If I ate a whole pizza last night, can I say, I used to eat a pizza yesterday? It's in the past, right?
Good instinct, but no. That is a trap a lot of learners fall into. Used to is not for single, isolated events. You wouldn't use it for something you did once yesterday. It's strictly for habits, routines, or states of being that happened repeatedly in the past but do not happen anymore.
So for our listeners who speak Spanish, this is very close to the concept behind the imperfect tense.
Yes.
It's not the simple past like, I went to the store once. It's the ongoing past like, I was going to the store every day. It describes the background of your life.
That is a very helpful connection to make because it sets up a story. When a native speaker hears you say, I used to, they immediately lean in.
Because they know a plot twist is coming.
Exactly. They subconsciously know you are about to contrast that past habit with a brand new present reality.
Which brings us to the present gear. We don't just abruptly start talking in the present tense, right?
Yeah.
We need a smooth transition.
Right. The material gives us phrases like these days, nowadays, and right now.
Nowadays seems particularly useful.
It really is. It creates a bridge. You're saying, compare what I just told you about the past with what I'm about to tell you about today.
Like, in the past, people used to write letters. Nowadays, everyone sends text messages.
Perfect.
And the verb tense shifts too. You drop the used to and just use the simple present or present continuous. Nowadays, people work 40 hours, or nowadays, people are working from home.
And that contrast is what makes the communication clear. You have successfully shifted from reverse into drive.
Okay, so we're driving, but now we have to look forward. We need to shift into overdrive and talk about the future.
The phrases for this are pretty straightforward. In 5 years, in 10 years, or sometime in the future.
But here is where the mechanics get a little tricky for me looking at the source. The material talks about using will for the future, but it also spends a lot of time on the word might.
Yes, it does.
Aren't they both just the future tense? Can't I just use them interchangeably?
Well, they both point to the future, but they communicate entirely different levels of confidence, and this is where you really take control of the nuances of English.
Okay, break that down for me.
Will is your tool for absolute certainty. When you state, in 10 years, people will buy everything online, you're making a strong factual prediction. You believe there is a 100% chance of this happening.
So will is for when I am totally confident, like I will pass my English test.
Yes. But, I mean, life is rarely that certain, especially when predicting societal changes, and that is where might comes in.
Might is for possibility.
Exactly. Might is the gear you use for possibility. If you say, in 10 years, we might travel in driverless cars, you are acknowledging that it's a 50-50 chance. It's a softer, more realistic prediction for things you cannot control.
That makes a massive difference in conversation. Like if a classmate asks me about my weekend and I say, I will go to the party, they expect me to be there.
Right, and if you don't show up, they will be annoyed.
Yeah, but if I say, I might go to the party, I am leaving the door open. I'm managing their expectations.
You're communicating much more than just the time. You're communicating your internal state of mind.
That is so powerful.
It is. By mastering these 3 zones, using used to for severed past habits, nowadays for current realities, and choosing between the certainty of will or the possibility of might, you have complete control over the timeline.
I can picture this in action. A teacher asks a student, how has work changed? And instead of just offering a broken one-word answer, the student shifts gears smoothly.
Oh, let's hear it.
They say, well, about 100 years ago, people used to work 60 hours in factories. Nowadays, people are working in flexible jobs from home. And in the future, we might only work 2 hours a day.
That sounds incredibly sophisticated because the structure is solid.
It really flows.
But And this is important. Having a solid structure is only half the battle. If you read that beautiful sentence in a flat, monotone voice, you will still sound like a robot reading a textbook.
Yes, you have to breathe life into it. This is something we often forget when we are just like staring at a page of grammar rules. Real people have emotion.
Which leads us to a critical part of the material, pronunciation, specifically the intonation in statements with time phrases.
Right.
Intonation is the music of English.
Right.
It's how your pitch physically rises and falls to give clues to the listener.
The textbook actually draws these little curved arrows over the sentences, which I find so helpful. But since we're on audio, let's try to visualize it for everyone listening.
Sure.
When you start a sentence with a time phrase, your voice shouldn't just stay flat.
Right. If you say, in the past, people used to write letters with absolutely no change in pitch, it just sounds uninterested.
Like a robot.
Exactly. The natural pattern is a wave. When you say the time phrase, your pitch should rise slightly at the very end of that phrase. Then you insert a micropause, and finally, your pitch falls at the end of the main sentence.
Let me try it. In the past, people used to write letters. I feel that. It feels almost like I'm holding the listener in suspense for a second.
That is the perfect way to describe it. When your pitch goes up on the word past, you're signaling to the listener, hold on, I haven't given you the main information yet. I'm just setting the stage.
And the falling pitch at the end on letters signals, okay, my thought is complete.
Exactly.
Let me try the present.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people use computers.
Right.
I can actually feel the physical shape of the sentence in my throat.
Mm.
But why does this matter so much? Will native speakers really care if my pitch goes up or down?
Well, they might not know the grammatical rule, but they will absolutely feel the difference. Using this intonation pattern makes you sound fluid, confident, and engaged.
It removes the friction from the conversation.
It does. And this is especially vital because talking about change is rarely just an exchange of data. Like we said, it's emotional.
The material highlights this brilliantly in a conversation exercise featuring two characters, Tom and Mia.
Oh, yes.
They are looking at an old photograph of their neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they aren't just stating facts about urban development, you know. They are having a visceral reaction to the passage of time.
What's fascinating here is that they are experiencing real nostalgia. When you listen to the audio program for this section, you hear that they think things have changed a lot, and specifically, they feel the neighborhood has changed for the worse.
They use these great emotional phrases like, that's such a shame, or that's too bad. And we do this all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
You walk past a spot in your hometown where a beautiful old theater used to stand, and now it's just a gray concrete parking garage.
Right. You don't just say, there was a theater, now there is a garage.
No. You combine the grammar, the intonation, and the emotion. You say, there used to be this amazing theater here, and nowadays it's just a parking lot. That's such a shame.
Yes.
When you do that, you aren't just practicing a language. You are telling a story. You are sharing your worldview.
And this is where true fluency lives. It is the intersection of structure, sound, and feeling. But a big question remains for the learner listening right now.
How do you actually do it?
Right. How do you get from understanding this concept intellectually to actually producing it physically?
Yes, because nodding along to our deep dive is easy. But doing it in real time, when the teacher calls on you or a barista asks you a question, that requires muscle memory. You don't have 5 minutes to mentally shift gears from used to might.
You really don't, but the Interchange program provides highly specific ways to build that muscle memory independently.
That's the key.
One of the standout activities is a variation of the game tic-tac-toe, designed specifically for time expressions.
Oh, I love a good game. And for anyone who calls it something else, tic-tac-toe is that classic game with the grid of 9 squares. You usually play with a friend, trying to get 3 X's or 3 O's in a straight line to win.
But in this language learning version, each of the 9 squares contains a different time marker. So one box might say in the past, another says these days, the center box might say soon, and another says in 10 years.
And to claim the square, you can't just draw an X. You have to look at the time marker and instantly formulate a complete, grammatically correct sentence out loud.
Right. If you want the center square that says soon, your brain has to instantly recognize that soon requires a future tense. You have a split second to decide between certainty and possibility.
So you say, soon people will work fewer hours, or soon we might have teleportation.
Exactly. And if you choose the these days square, you have to snap back to the present tense. These days, people are shopping online.
Doing this rapidly, just back and forth, it forces your brain to connect the time phrase directly to the verb form. It cuts out that middle step of translating from Spanish in your head.
It creates an automated response. And alongside the games, the program places a heavy emphasis on the online self-study tools and the physical workbook.
The self-study is really the secret weapon here. The material notes that there are hundreds of additional exercises online. You can literally listen to the audio tracks of Tom and Mia repeatedly.
But the key is active listening. Don't just hear the words. Listen to the wave of their intonation.
And mimic it.
Yes. Record your own voice. Play it back. Ask yourself, does my pitch rise on the time phrase? Does it fall at the end?
And your bedroom or your living room is a totally safe space to make those mistakes. You could open the workbook and write out paragraphs about how your own specific city has changed over the last 20 years.
Highly recommend doing that.
Because when you physically write the sentences down and then speak them out loud to an empty room, your mouth learns the physical shape of the English language.
It lowers the pressure. By practicing the time contrasts and intonation patterns independently, you are doing all the heavy lifting before the stakes are high. When you finally walk into that physical classroom and the teacher starts a discussion, the language will flow out of you naturally because your brain has already traveled that path 100 times.
You won't be scrambling to remember if you should use will or might. You will just be engaging in the conversation.
That's the ultimate goal.
Let's take a quick look back at the ground we have covered on this mission.
We started by identifying the specific vocabulary needed to describe societal shifts, understanding the difference between a time clock era and an intelligent robot era.
Right, getting the nouns down.
We moved away from just listing words and looked at how they paint a picture of change.
And then we learned how to shift gears. We explored the grammar engine of time contrasts. We put a wall up against the past using used to. We bridged into the present with nowadays, and we learned how to soften our future predictions using might instead of will.
We also explored the physical mechanics of speaking. We discussed that rising and falling wave of intonation that signals confidence.
The music of it.
Yes, and we analyzed why expressing emotion, like nostalgia, is what makes your English sound human and authentic.
You have the vocabulary to describe the changes, you have the grammar to structure the timeline, and the pronunciation to make it sing. All of this prepares you to be an active, compelling participant in any English conversation.
The only step left is application. Log into the online self-study today. Open the workbook.
Do it right now.
Yeah. Draw a tic-tac-toe grid on a piece of paper and challenge yourself to build those sentences. Do the repetition in private so you can shine in public.
Put in that 10 minutes of practice before your next class. And speaking of the future, I want to leave you with a thought connected to a grammar rule coming up later in this unit, conditional if clauses.
Oh, looking ahead.
Just a little preview. We use them to talk about consequences, like if it rains, I will get wet. We have spent this entire deep dive analyzing how society and technology change over time. But let's apply that if clause directly to your personal English journey.
A very fitting application.
Think about this. If you take just 10 minutes today to practice shifting your time years out loud, how much more confident will you be when you open your mouth in class tomorrow?
It's all up to you.
The engine is built. It is time to turn the key. Keep speaking, keep practicing, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.